Hello everyone, my name is Jon Paul Schraven. I'm a 21-year-old international business student from Germany, majoring in information systems. So let's jump right into it and answer the question that I've been asked so many times that I lost count. Why are you going to Korea? Why, out of all countries, Korea, and why Seoul? So the reason for me was that I wanted to do something entirely different. I wanted to go to Asia, so I knew that part. But when I considered where to go in Asia, I was actually considering many different options, like Singapore and China. But I felt like the country I knew the least about and the country that seemed most interesting to me, as it was totally unknown, was Korea. So I decided to start and gather some information on Seoul. Even though I spent a lot of time on researching and trying to find out what the culture is like, I noticed that once I got there, it's still totally different experience. For example, when you talk about Korea, everybody thinks about Kim Jong-un and North Korea, but once you actually get there, it's not even a topic at all. So the only way you get in touch with that is actually when you visit the demilitarized zone, which I will come back to later. My main reason to go to Korea was that I wanted to see Asian culture the way it really is, not in a westernized way, and I thought that Korea would be the country where I could get the most of that. But once I got there, I saw that Korea is much more than that, and these reasons are really only the basis of what you will experience in Korea. So why should you now watch the rest of this video and consider going to Korea? For me, there are several reasons. First, the people. When I came to Korea, I had no idea how nice and friendly the Koreans actually are. If you don't know them very well, they can seem very introverted, but once you get to know them better, you will see that it's totally not the case and that they're so happy to meet new people and they always want to do activities together, eat dinner, eat lunch, go out, etc. Koreans actually put great pride in their buddy systems, so you will have so many activities to do with your buddies that sometimes you will be hoping that you could also have some time on your own. So you always have the options to do something if you want to. Every week there are several activities you could attend and things to see, and always all of the buddies do all of these activities with you, even though they might have already seen all those things or lived through all those experiences, but they want to relive it with you and show you what great of a country Korea can be if you're interested and if you let it happen. Another reason for me would be the landscape itself. Korea has a very unique mix of countryside and urban city. Therefore, you will see green fields and mountains everywhere, and in between, huge skyscrapers. When going to Korea, you actually have three options. You can go to Seoul National University, Yonsei University, and Korea University Business School. I decided for the third option. The main reason for this was that I had a friend who already visited Korea University, and he had a lot of good impressions from it. Further, Korea University is actually at rank 28 of the Financial Times Executive MBA Rankings 2014. It's located in Annam, which is a small district of Seoul. In Annam, you will find everything you need. You'll find supermarkets, accommodation, and opportunities to go out. However, if you really want to spend a nice night out and you don't just want to go to a bar, you always have the option to take the metro to Gangnam, Hongdae or Itaewon. The size of the classes is quite small, so 20 to 40 students for one professor, but there are no tutors like in Maastricht. It was quite an international classroom in my classes, however there are still about 90% to 95% Koreans in every class. The language of instruction was English though, which was sometimes hard to understand due to the Korean accent, which took some getting used to. The facilities of the university itself were really top-notch. They had a huge library, they had very modern lecture halls and classrooms, and also very modern equipment in general. The workload for the courses was very moderate, however it got a bit harder towards the end. In our business negotiation course, which was the best course, we only had a midterm quiz. In our regional studies Japan course, which is for me the second best course, we had to write an entry proposal. We had a final exam and a few quizzes. However, it was pretty interesting and the easiest professor to understand as he is German, and the workload itself was also very moderate. The third best course was Process Innovation and Project Development. Here the professor was quite famous. It was a very practical and quite interesting course with no exam, which I would also recommend, but it's not as great as it's hyped. Korean business in the Asian context is very interesting but also very dry. It has a huge amount of readings. It does, however, lead to a great understanding of the Korean culture and norms, and there's only a midterm if you pass it. Finally, I took internet marketing, which was very badly organized and added very marginal value, but it also had close to no workload. So if that is your objective, you might want to choose it. Otherwise, I would not recommend this course at all. Arrangements before going to Korea. Before going to Korea, I had to apply on the EKU website. I had to write a letter of motivation. I had to go to Frankfurt to get a visa. And I got a travel insurance by Hanse Merkur, which I can only recommend. For vaccinations, even though you don't really need anything for Korea, you should check if you want to travel beforehand and to decide which vaccinations to take. Therefore, I can recommend the Travel Clinic Maastricht, which will give you good advice and also do the vaccinations with you. I arrived at Korea 2 weeks before university started because I wanted to have some time to see the city and to travel a bit. We then had a few introduction days during the week before university started. They were reasonably interesting, but there's also a pretty bad student card system where you need to open a bank account to get a student card, but they help you out a lot and guide you through the system in a great way. I decided for accommodation off campus because I had heard that there are many strict rules for the on-campus accommodation. However, after I got in touch with many other people who chose on-campus accommodation, I'm not quite sure about that anymore, so I would recommend checking out both options, off and on campus, and probably applying for on campus because this option is also quite a bit cheaper. My accommodation was a goshitel, which is a typical Korean style student house. We actually had about 40 rooms on one floor, so you can already imagine how big the size of the rooms is, but I mean, it's mainly for sleeping anyways. You can study in the university or in cafes, and during the day you will be out exploring, and during the nights you will have social activities to attend to if you like. Besides university, we did a lot of activities with our buddies. With Kuba, there are activities all the time. Every weekend a trip is organized to see the outskirts of Seoul. During the week there are often cheering activities or dinners together, which actually takes place every single week. To take a break from university, we traveled to the East Sea and we explored Seoul. Afterwards, I traveled Southeast Asia with some friends and left Seoul on the 17th of December already, so I had plenty of time before I would have to get back to Maastricht. I would like to conclude by stating that pretty much all of my expectations were wrong, so what counts more in my opinion are the experiences I made. I met many nice people, the city itself is incredible. Everything in Seoul is pretty small, so that takes some getting used to. However, the food is great, even though it's quite expensive sometimes. Seoul is not as good of a travel hub as I had hoped, compared to Singapore for example, but instead there's so much more to see in the city itself, as it's one of the largest cities in the world and has so much to explore that it never gets boring. Further, it's really easy to go over to Japan or Jeju Island and also to China for reasonable prices. In the end, I have one last recommendation to make. Go to the DMZ. This is not really in Seoul, but it's really a nice experience to see the border between North and South Korea and to learn a bit more about the history.